Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. I need you guys to smash that like button. If there's one plugin you guys need for sampling, it's called Serato Sample. It's the greatest plugin made for all things sampling. So the way that most people use this, including HitBoy, is we might just drag in a sample from our collection here, and then we'll just hit where it says find samples. And this is a quick way to just demo how a sample beat would sound on different records quickly without having to manually chop and spend hours doing that per sample. So this is a quick way to just load up. So let's make a beat just to show you guys how fast this process could be. So firstly, we want the down sample. And it knows like musical changes too. And now we already have a beat. Let's record that to 83 BPM. Now a tempo syncs as well. So when you guys are in higher BPMs, you could even have it synchronized. You could double the speed. You could slow the speed down so that it fits your specific BPM. Let's record this. Okay, so one thing about Serato is I like to keep the drums in Serato until I get the music. And then if I have to take out the drums, like for example, the second hit that we have is a snare. So that normally a snare would not go on that. It would be a kick. I guess you could put a snare there technically. So a cool thing we could do is just hit Control L in FL Studio. And now it's perfectly lined up with the BPM, the metronome. And now we literally have an entire beat just from that. So one thing we can do here in FL Studio, which is interesting, is we could send each pad to different outputs. So this is a little more advanced, especially when we get into mixing, but most people don't notice. If you click the options here, you could actually select different outputs per pad. So let's say we wanted this first pad, or let's say the second pad, this pad here. It also tells you the note that you're playing. So if you click options, it tells you the exact FL Studio note that you're playing to get that pad, which is really informative. Okay, so this is F#3. We're going to click here, and you can go to where it says options here. Let's change the output. So now it says channel 1, but we still have to set up outputs in the plugin settings, which is a little tedious. But if you go to the plugin wrapper settings, go to where it says processing, click where it says auto map outputs. So basically +1 is +1 in the mixer. So now if we go to Serato Sample, hit Control L, it's mapped to channel 2. So anything with a +1 output, which is what we did on this G, we have it on +1, channel 1. This means it's going to be +1 from wherever we were in the mixer. So 2 + 1 is 3. So now the second pad is hitting on the third channel here in the mixer, which means we can now process that sample differently. Okay, so let's add a low pass filter, for example. But this low pass filter only affects things routed. So now you can do really unique change ups per chop. So let's just get a little weird here. Let's just throw in random samples and let's give it different filter amounts. So let's say that's on this. So again, I'm not thinking about this. We have about 4 chops. So let's do this. And I'm just setting different low pass filter amounts. So instead of automating, you could do it per pad. Okay. And also we could add a ton more effects. I'm just loading up a couple. Now we need to find which samples we actually triggered. So we have H. Click on the options here, go to master, output, change this to channel 2. So now that's on channel 4. Apparently I didn't add any effects on channel 4. Okay, so that was my mistake. Let's drag this to channel 4 and let's just change something about it. And then we have S, okay, and then click on the S, go to options, output 3, and then this one, output 4. So now they're all being treated completely separately. I think we have how many chops? 1, 2, 3, 4. So now in the mixer, they're all going to separate channels for different filters. Now you can get a really unique performance. Okay, I missed the chop clearly. Okay, and then boom, we can send this to whatever other channel. Okay, so another thing people overlook is the velocity sensitivity. This is going to treat it like an MPC pad or like a machine pad where it could tell how hard you're hitting on the pad. Most people overlook this, especially people who produce an FL. We don't understand how important velocity is to the movement of a track. So simply just turning this on can give you a more hip hop type sound, like classic hip hop. It's not going to be dramatic. It's going to be a smaller dynamic change. And then also too, we can go to each pad and then add a key shift. So here we could do weird stuff like pitch this up 7 semitones, which is a perfect fifth. Or if there's this part of the sample that is just not in the right key or in the right spot, we could just quickly key shift that specific pad. Now this doesn't need to be key shifted, so I'm just kind of forcing this. Okay, so as you guys can see, we don't really need to change that. What I love about Serato 2 is, let's say we are adding music in the background. Hold up, click the note. Okay, so let's say we want to add some music to the background here. Let's add a piano from Flex. What I love is that it tells you the key so that it figures out that it's in E minor. So now I can go into Flex. My screen is like tripping out here, y'all. Okay, so now I can go here, pattern 1, boom. So if I wanted to add chords to this, I can now go to Flex and just start producing an E minor. But let's say you're not used to E minor. I'll show you guys how to change the key pretty simply. So let's say we want to write this in D minor. Let's go to where it says key and pull this down until it says D minor. So it's always going to be the minor scale, technically. Okay, so you can tell the piano is not perfectly tuned to the sample. Here's another great thing I love about Serato is that let's record the piano first. And I'll show you guys different techniques here. So let's just record some chords here. Okay, so that was kind of sloppy piano. Let's do it one more time. Okay. Okay, so now it's more rhythmic. So basically the piano does not sound in tune with the sample. So what we could do in Serato is go to where it says DTune, and we could actually tune this per the semitone or the cent value. So cents, there's 100 cents per semitone. So every note to note, every time you go from one note to the next note on the keyboard, that's 100 cents. Okay, and one semitone is 100 cents. Okay, so what we can do in Serato is basically granularly tune this to match the piano. So let's figure how far off we are first. So it's gonna be easier to go to the piano. So we're about 17 cents off. So we need to pull the sample down 17 cents. And it should feel more cohesive with that piano. Okay, so now we can add our instruments over top of Serato. And let's say the music is competing with ours, we could turn off different things about the sample. So if you want to add a bass line, you could turn off the bass guitar. If you want to add your own drums, you could take out their drums. If you want to add your own piano, you could take out their instrument layer. It's really good for this. It's the best algorithm for creating acapellas. So now we took out the music of the sample, and now all we have is the bass line and the drum, which allows us to add our music inside. Okay, so now we can build around the groove of the sample. Let's add some more instruments in here. Let's add some chords in here. Again, we're not going to do a full production. I just wanted to show you guys how fast we can even add our own music to a record. So it's not just sampling, it's also adding our own stuff. I might change up let's create more of a softer R&B sound here. So I'm just showing you guys how we can add our own vibes to this. And it feels organic, like it's coming from the same song. Let's figure out what chords to add in here. Let's add these chords in here. Of course, my finger slips. Okay. Okay, so now it really feels like the sample is just part of our production here. And now it's just about sound selection. You can also add drum breaks to Serato. So it just depends on the vibe, but let's see if we can find a drum break that matches the Serato vibe or the sample vibe. It's got to beat Butcher stuff. Let's drag it in and we're going to just hit find samples. So what it's now going to do is time stretch the drums to match the BPM that we're at right now. But you could also take off the sync mode and just trigger the drum samples like one shots. So this is what Ableton does that FL Studio does not do. All right, so we're gonna leave those double snares in. Just double click, hit Alt Q, quantize. So now our drums are perfectly lined up to the sample. And like I said before, we can find our snare. Click on it, go to output, and let's send this to channel +1, for example. In the mixer, this is already on channel 11, so it's +1 from 11. And now we could add things like reverb just to the snare, for example. Let's add a fruity reverb too. Cut off the highs, cut out the lows, give it a decay curvature. And we need to set up the outputs here. Go to plugin settings, go to processing, auto map. So now the snare is gonna go through that reverb. Let me mix these drums a little bit. Okay, so now the drums I'm going to route the snare back to the main channel only because I want it to be processed. So now the snare, you know, now our drums are not affected by the reverb, just the snare. And again, we can go back to the sample, and to create some of that like R&B vibe, we could add a filter here just to the kick. Now we're getting textures we normally would not get just sampling. So let's show you guys one more thing here. In Serato, most people don't realize you could do this, but you could drag one shots in here or just like phrases. So here's a phrase. Actually, I have it running through a bunch of effects, but basically here's a phrase. Let's see if we can find it in our browser. Forget where I put it. Vintage, retro. So any of these old phrases, I think it's called Z0. Here it is. And then one of these folders here. So I'm just going to show you guys a random folder, but believe you me, here it is. I think it's in one of these folders. And so it's a sample similar to this. I can't remember exactly which one, but it's called China Number 2. So I forget which folder I got it from, but it's in this pack somewhere. So I just dragged a phrase like that into Serato sample. And what people don't realize is you could turn off the sync mode. And what I like to do is be like a sound designer. And I'm running this through a reverb here. This is Valhalla Valhalla Shimmer reverb. It has like a feedback to it, a granular feedback. And what I'm doing here is turning the sample off sync mode. Okay, and then I'm putting this BPM at a really low BPM. So now it creates a granular type of smeary sound. And all we got to do is just tune this to the... Now it's a background instrument, like a pad. And let's say I wanted to change up, so let's record this. Okay, so it's hard to tell the notes, so let's quantize this. So let's turn off this for a second. So here's the second pad. So the second pad, now I have some reversing as well. I meant to tell you guys, you could click this reverse button to reverse the pad. So let's zoom in. Okay, so here's what we're playing the second time around. Now for this chop, I want it to specifically go dun, dun. So I need to use my ear here. So it's either +8, -12 is -4. Okay, now it's not perfectly tuned. Okay, and now when we run this through the reverb, it feels like it's moving with the actual chord progression. So that's how you can create synthetic pitch changes that match your specific harmony. So let's level this as if we were making a beat. I'm just going to go in and double check these pads are actually right on the downbeat. It's hard to tell sometimes. So let's see. Okay, that one looks good. Now we can also tell Serato to have a range. If I'm not mistaken, I might be incorrect about this. So I think we can set this range. So let's say we don't want the sample to just play the next thing because it goes. Okay, so I don't want it to play the snare. So I believe we could set a range to limit the first chop so it does not play the second snare, which is important because I don't want that kick to then run into the next snare. So it's going to change the way we perceive the drums here. So all we got to do now at this point is just arrange this track. So the drums are probably the only thing that don't perfectly match the vibe because they're a little aggressive. All right, so without explaining all those steps, this could have taken 5 minutes just to create like a draft. So I just wanted to show you guys how fun it is to mess with Serato and the different features on it that most people don't talk about or show or even know. Let's record some pitch dives in here, pitch changes. All right, so I just added small little pitch bends to create more ear candy. So again, I didn't even plan on making an entire beat, but I'm just showing you guys how fun it is with Serato. It solves a lot of problems that FL has about time stretch. So it's a must-have for samplers out there. Let's just vibe to this. So see how we've made our instruments feel like they're in the sample? Let's vibe out to this beat. Again, all powered by Serato sample. Links below. That's my affiliate link. I think it links to Sweetwater. Crazy, crazy, crazy what you could do with Serato sample. So again, I have a link below. That's my affiliate link, and it leads to Sweetwater. All right, guys, subscribe if you're new. Peace out.